Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me and all the things we do on this show on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram at Hawk Blogger. And you can find the audio versions on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcasts. If you want ad-free audio, you can get it at patreon.com/hawkblogger, which also gets you access to our Discord server, where we've got a really growing and fun and kind community over there, which is great to hang out with all the time. And this is incredibly the number one Seahawks podcast on the planet for the number one football team on the planet, your Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. And it's a Saturday, so we get to hang out with my good pal, Jeff Simmons. Jeff, man, I'm really looking forward to this show in some ways. I'm also very uncomfortable with this show. For people that don't know, the main emphasis of today's episode will be Jeff and I revealing to each other our full offseason plan for the Seahawks in terms of what they should do with certain positions, whether they should draft, sign a free agent, make a trade, what they should do with the cap. This was hard. But I'm really looking forward to hearing what your plan is, Jeff. I have a feeling it's going to be better than what I came up with.
This is not an easy offseason for Schneider. Look, I was going through all the lists and they have 6 starters hitting free agency. So in a down draft and didn't get the Maxx Crosby trade, becomes pretty tricky offseason. So yeah, I don't envy John Schneider, man. This is not, I think fans are going to really struggle next week. And I think it's going to be classic Seahawks free agency stuff. So let's see if John and the team can learn some stuff from us.
Well, let's see. You mentioned news. We should go through that first. So we're going to get to our offseason plan in just a little bit, but there's so much news that happened. I didn't do a show yesterday. I was dealing with flooding in a basement and all sorts of craziness that I won't bore people with. But yesterday was not a day for a show. But headline: Maxx Crosby traded to the Ravens for 2 first-round picks, including the 14th overall pick in 2026. Jeff, I've seen all sorts of interesting reactions to this. And one of the ones that I can't quite square in my brain is I see someone say, "Good, I didn't want that guy. I trust John Schneider." And I'm like, pretty sure John Schneider would have made that trade, I think he wanted Maxx Crosby. I think he did offer 2 first-round picks, and they just didn't have the ammunition to get it done. And the Ravens, you're not going to beat a top 15 pick and another first-round pick if you're the Seahawks.
Yeah, the rumor that did go around was that they did offer 2 first-rounders at the deadline, and that was when they weren't competing with the volume of teams. But I was on Rob's show. I think I said this to you when it first came out. I thought this was going to be a very hard trade for Seattle to win, because they had the 32nd pick. There was no natural player that would have kind of pushed it over the top, because all the players are going to lose. And I just thought this is going to be so hard for them. They either have to just way overpay everyone else. And when Baltimore comes in with the 14th pick, that's a huge gap. Just even think about the cost to move up from 32 to 14. That might be a first round. You saw what Atlanta paid in that stupid trade they did last year. And that was even a smaller gap. So I'm not surprised. It says a lot about this coming draft that Baltimore was willing to trade the 14th pick. Baltimore's been like a pure draft and develop team. They're very analytical. They had never traded a first-round pick for a player before in their history. With the cost on Ozzie, it says a lot that they're willing to trade. And Maxx Crosby, I think I've seen some Seahawks fans surprised that it was 2 first-rounders. I'm not. There were so many teams in there. Dallas was in there. I'm just happy at the end of the day it wasn't the Rams.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's all sorts of interesting things about this. We won't take a ton of time, but I do think it's important enough to spend a little. I think it's interesting that a Jesse Minter coach team, who is right there with Mike McDonald in terms of defensive, like running the same scheme, that they value Maxx Crosby the way that they did, because I do feel like there's just so much evidence that John Schneider and Mike McDonald wanted specifically Maxx Crosby. And we'll talk about it in the offseason plans. Everyone's like, well, if we don't get that, then we'll pivot to this next edge. I don't think that's it at all. I think it was a Maxx Crosby thing in particular. And one of the things that people I think don't understand about Maxx Crosby is everyone looks at like the pass rush numbers and they're like, oh, like he's declined in these areas. They don't look at the run defense. And like this guy has the gap. I saw a stat somewhere about the gap between him and the second place player in terms of run stops and run stuffs at the edge was like the difference between Myles Garrett and like the 24th best edge rusher, like in terms of pass rush. Like he is a dominant run defender. And the idea that you can have someone like that that then puts you into that many more second and third and longs and sets up your whole defense to rush the passer. I think that's part of why he was so valuable to the Jesse Minters and the Mike McDonalds.
Yeah, you saw what DeMarcus Lawrence did to shore up their run defense last year, where me and you identified that as a huge upgrade coming from Draymond Jones. And I didn't think you'd get the pass rush you got from Lawrence and the effort and all that stuff, but you saw what that player did in this defense. And you saw what Jadeveon Clowney did the one year where he's been more of a run player than a – now Crosby is an amazing pass rusher still. But it's worked historically in this defense. And so when I was starting to go through these lists, I'm like, can you get him in like the Moneyball fashion? You just can't. There's no real Crosby replacement. You can't replace him in this free agent class. He is a premier elite player. People worry about his age, but the guy plays so hard. So even if you got like 2 good years out of him, a lot of teams would be happy paying up that price. And again, I think it's very telling that Baltimore of all teams went for him.
Yeah, I think that's wild in terms of how they've built teams. And here's the number. This is from Ben Solak. He tweeted this yesterday. Over the last 4 seasons, Maxx Crosby has 45 tackles for loss on designed running plays. The next closest defensive lineman is Myles Garrett at 30, 15 fewer. Crosby is as far from Garrett as Garrett is from 20th place. So like that is an astounding number there. And I think tackles for loss are super underrated as a valuable, like people talk about sacks. Sacks are just a different kind of tackle for loss. But yeah, I will say one more thing on this, Jeff. I think this is a nothing burger for the Ravens. I've kind of been down on the Ravens anyway. I don't think they're that much closer to being an interesting team. I think that's a team in trouble. I think that's a team that has not been really that close to getting over the hump. And I think this was a mistake personally. I think one of the only teams this made sense for are, I think the Cowboys, it made sense to me because I think it would have really vaulted them into contender status, and the Seahawks. Like those are the 2 teams that to me, I thought was worth the price that it was going to cost.
Yeah. When you said that to us in a group and I'm like, is that right? So I pulled up their RLIs and You're right in the set. It's not a great roster. Like it's very top heavy. Their top heavy guys are incredible. Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Crosby, but their depth, they have a lot of guys in free agency. And I think the question now is I think Crosby takes them out of Tyler Linderbaum. I don't think they have the money to do both. And obviously you would take Crosby in that scenario. And an elite pass rusher, I talk about game record, but you're sort of right. The roster is not great. Like they're going to really need the coach to elevate what they have there. Especially they don't have a first round picks for the next 2 years. They haven't had a lot of great hits in the draft the last couple of years like they typically do. I think that's one of the reasons John Harbaugh's gone. And yeah, they're a very top heavy team. They're going to have to be built like the Rams where they're going to have to find value in the middle rounds. It's a very flashy, and they don't know if Justin Matabuke is coming back. And there's a big difference between playing with who we would have played with in Seattle and who we would have played with. But like Crosby is an elite player, and there's so few teams that can get those guys. And I think there's this bad narrative about John that's come out, and everyone calls John Schneider cheap. And that's going to go around so much this week. Everyone's going to say, John's cheap. John's cheap. I don't think that's true. I think there's context that gets missed here, and not coming out just to defend them. When John thinks the guys are elite, he pays them. He's paid a lot of guys at the top. Russell Wilson, highest paid player ever at one point. Bobby Wagner, highest paid linebacker. He paid Earl. He paid Cam. He paid everyone talking about K9 and Shaheed. He's so cheap. Did you forget they just paid Charles Cross and Lucas? And dude, were you right about Lucas? That contract is going to look so good starting next week. Oh my God. What did they get him for? $15 million a year?
Oh, I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah, but when they paid Charles Cross $24 million a year, is anyone calling him cheap? John, when he gets to that next tier of guys he thinks are good but not great, he sticks to his valuations. I don't think he is cheap. I think with the amount of guys they've paid at the top of the league, Jamal Adams even, they're
Abe
about to pay.
Lucas is $15 million a year.
Yeah, like that's good. You called that. That's got to be one of your best permanent, because we were arguing about that one, whether you wait on it. What do you think you would get in free agency? I think over 20.
I think so. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
I
I
mean,
don't think John Schneider's cheap. I don't want to hear that this week. I think he's very good at paying elite players. I think Crosby fell in that bucket. I think with the middle tier, he sticks to his guns. I think that's good general management.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's well said, Jeff. So let me go through a couple other bits of news that are of relevance. Cam Curl, safety for the Rams, who is set to become a free agent, re-signs with the Rams, 3 years, $36 million, $24 million guaranteed. This is kind of a decent comp for what Kobe Bryant could be looking for out there. And it was interesting to me, Jeff, that after trading for Trent McDuffie, and we already talked about the fact that that's a little bit of a redundancy with Quentin Lake, who they just extended during this last season. I was like, well, are they going to put Quentin Lake back at safety and keep McDuffie at slot? This seems to indicate that they're going to keep McDuffie outside where he's not at his best, keep Lake probably inside, and basically run back the rest of the secondary, barring other, changes that they make. So this was an interesting one.
Yeah, I was surprised he took the deal before free agency. He was supposed to be either, if not the top safety, one of the top safeties. And I think his agent probably came to the conclusion that me and you did earlier in the week, that this is a deep safety market. It's a deep drafted safety, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. I think he took a good contract with the team he played really well with. And I think that's a very important data point for Kobe. I think his agent was probably a little pissed off that they took that deal. And yeah, the research I did after seeing the signing there yesterday is that they think McDuffie's mostly going to play outside. And I think Jordan Rodriguez tweeted that. She's as tied into the Rams as anyone. I think that's very telling. And he has not played nearly as well when he's played outside as he's played inside. So I think now they paid Lake, they paid Curl, they're going to play a lot of that dime defense. But they're trying to become this modern cornerback group, the modern defensive back group that the Seahawks have been so good at. I'm a little surprised they didn't try to find a little more value there, but
yeah, it was interesting. Then there's a couple other moves I'll run through quickly. So the Bills have been shedding cap space. They released nickel corner Taron Johnson, wide receiver Curtis Samuel, cornerback Dane Jackson, and safety Taylor Rapp, who's relatively young still. And again, anyone that's released in this fashion does not count against the comp pick formula. That could be something that comes up when we get into our offseason plans. Detroit offensive tackle Taylor Decker had been contemplating retirement, then decided not to. And then the Lions are like, we're not going to pay you what you want. And so they're releasing him. So he'll be out on the market. And then the Bears traded a 5th-round pick, a 2027 5th-round pick for Patriots center Garrett Bradbury, who had been with the Vikings, then with the Patriots, and then with the Bears. I think, Jeff, you and I both saw this coming in the sense that Jared Wilson for them makes sense. They're going to move him over to center, and they'll figure out guard another way. And then I'll let you in here. The Vikings, speaking of centers, the guy they signed to replace Bradbury, Ryan Kelly, retires. And so what an absolute train wreck of an offseason that was for the Vikings last year.
And it's a great lesson for everyone going into next week. A couple lessons, just you don't want to be the team that throws money around and wins free agency, because typically free agency is full of older, declining players. And the Vikings were that team. A lot of Seahawks fans were upset with them. They signed Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. They let Darnold go, and everyone's like, look, they're using all this money. It usually takes till the 2 years until they have to start shedding it. And it happens a lot. Most of these guys didn't make it to a second year. They've already cut Allen and Hargrave. Ryan Kelly was an older player who had been beat up. He had 3 concussions last year. So he retired. And bigger picture, the 2 centers the Seahawks fans were very upset about not signing. And this is pretty wild. Drew Dahlman and Ryan Kelly. both retired already. We haven't hit free agency. And then Connor
What is it
Williams
with the
retired.
center position? Connor Williams retired.
That would have been 2 years in a row their centers would have retired.
Yeah.
And so Jalen Sundell on that undrafted free agent contract all of a sudden looks, and this is where, again, everyone always wants to win free agency. And look, I'm in the camp. I get very frustrated with the Seahawks during free agency every year. But last year was frustrating because they had that need at guard. But the best moves a lot of times are the ones you don't make. And so it's so easy to declare like the Dolphins and the Commanders and the Titans and the Jets and these offseason champions. But what tends to happen is what happened with the Vikings, and that got their GM fired. They let Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones out of the building. But signing older, declining players who have big names is a lesson. That's not a great way to build your team. And so one of the lessons I learned when I started covering the NFL was don't focus on name, focus on the ascending players or the value. And they made a lot of free agent mistakes. I think it's names, not games or something. I think that was the line I heard. But they basically missed on everyone. And their GM got fired, and now they're kind of in this no man's land.
Yeah, I mean, jeez. We talk about some of the best trades in history, best moves, and those are always fun to go through. That has got to go down as one of the worst off seasons I can remember in terms of like move for move, and the opportunity cost of if they hadn't made that, like if they had picked Sam Darnold instead of sticking with McCarthy, like move after move, man. Like what an absolute disaster for the Vikings. And I'm not sure the disaster part is over yet. We'll see what happens with JJ McCarthy. Obviously, they're going to sign a veteran quarterback. Kyler Murray's rumored there. Like we'll see. I'll say this now, like the team that signs Kyler Murray, good luck. Good luck. He's gonna bring some exciting moments, and he is going to disappear when you need him most.
Like I get that everyone's excited about signing him for $1 million because Arizona's on the hook for 36. So Arizona's basically paying him to play somewhere else. But have we forgotten everything that's happened? Like, yeah, it's $1 million, but Russell Wilson got signed for $1 million for Pittsburgh a couple years ago. They lost in the first round of the playoffs. Russell was fine, but didn't change their fortunes at all. They're the same Steelers. And it's kind of weird because Kyler can't really throw in the middle of the field. And that's the whole genesis of the O'Connell offense and the Shanahan offense and the McVay offense. And so I know everyone's excited by the price and excited by the upside. It's so easy to come to that conclusion. The Cardinals, who have no quarterback, just cut this dude. And that's not to let them off the hook. The Cardinals have been inept for 40 years. But I don't think Kyler's like the answer in that kind of offense. I think Kyler's the perfect quarterback for a bad team who's going to make a fun play. And then do you really think that guy can win in the playoffs? Like, do you think? I don't.
Yeah. So we'll now turn our attention here in a sec to the topic of the day. I saw this fly by. It says, thank God that Hawk Blogger's Crosby fantasy finally went away. I get this. There's a lot of people that were like not big on this. I will just say this was not my fantasy. The Seahawks front office, the Seahawks wanted to make this move. They've wanted to make this move for a while. So if you're cheering against the move being made, you're cheering against, I think, the front office doing what they wanted to do. I don't think they're happy today that they don't have Maxx Crosby. But I still do believe that was the only move, Jeff, as we go through this and we're about to kick this off. That was probably the only move I could see them making that would have gotten me out of my seat a little bit. I think this is a workman-like offseason. I don't think this is going to be we get significantly better offseason.
Yeah, if you study those top 100 lists, free agent lists, there's a couple interesting names at the top. I don't think Seattle's going to be in on those names. And then it goes to kind of edge rushers that are complementary, guards, safeties. It's not like a super, and most of the exciting free agents to other teams are former Seahawks. I saw one list that had 4 Seahawks in the top 12, and all indications, most of these guys are probably not coming back. So to a lot of other teams, this will be a fun, flashy team who signs Woolen or Shaheed or Walker. To the Seahawks, I don't think there's like a Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett thing coming on here.
No. Yeah. Well, the Rashid Shaheed thing, just really quick, Jeff. I want to test this out with you. I haven't said this out loud yet, but I think the way I see Rashid Shaheed is he's like the best number 3 receiver in the NFL, and he's going to get paid like a number 2. I don't think he's a number 2 receiver.
As a pure receiver, definitely not. Like, I think we saw in a pretty structured offense, they weren't able to use him very often as a receiver. I think he's got a really quantifiable skill, which is getting down the field. But I think as like a pure route runner and a guy who can run over the middle, I don't think he's your every down wide receiver. Like, you saw in the playoffs, even when Cooper Kupp started playing well, I know what that number 2 receiver looked like, how often he was getting open. And Shaheed's had some moments last year for sure. Like the Atlanta game, you saw him get so much separation. But yeah, this is what happens in free agency, and it's why teams like John hate free agency typically. Players get bumped up, they get paid. We saw it with Byron Maxwell years ago, a number 2 corner that got paid like a number 1 corner, and they get exposed. And I think Shaheed, just because of his one skill, will be fine no matter where he goes because he can do that. But that's what happens. Guys get paid levels, especially it's a supply and demand thing. And those teams tend to make mistakes. We don't see a lot of examples where that works.
Yeah. I agreed. All right. So let's set this up. This is going to be last year we did something where like Jeff and I did our top 10 free agent like desires and we kind of revealed them. We decided to expand this a little bit this year where it was like, it's not just about free agency. I think it's to get the whole picture of the offseason. So this allows you to say, we basically picked a bunch of positions where we think we both agree the team needs to make some changes or some moves. And we're going to go through those positions. So, for example, running back, wide receiver, edge, cornerback, safety, right guard. Those are the main ones that we picked. Then there's contract and cap. So, this is where if you think that they should extend somebody or they should cut somebody, that shows up here. And then we have a bonus move where you can just pick something out that doesn't fit any of this that you want, and you just want to put it in there. Okay. This is kind of what I can't speak for Jeff. This is what we think the team should do. I kind of went in between because I think the team should re-sign Ken Walker. I didn't include that because they're not going to do it. So that's not part of my plan. So I don't know, Jeff, if that matches you. The things I know that they're not going to do, I just left off the list, even if I would do them.
When I was going through my running back list, and every time I would go to a name, I'm like, I just want to give him Ken Walker.
Right.
And I came out and look, a lot of people didn't agree with this opinion, and you probably didn't. I wanted them to franchise him. I thought in this economy where we'll go through this, I didn't mind taking an overinflated cap hit for him for 1 year, see how he does, and I'd live with it. But everyone would probably hate that move, including Walker. I would have done it, but yeah, I did include him because I just don't. I think he's going to get to the point where they don't pay him. But God, when I was going through it every time, I'm like, I don't want this guy back. He's 25 years old.
Yeah, I know. So I didn't include that. If you did, that's totally fine. I'll say this as well. We gave ourselves the out on draft of not saying draft this specific guy because you just don't know who's going to fall to you. If Jeff included names, that's totally fine.
I did.
I just basically where I thought draft was an option, we did that. And also part of the opportunity here is to also say, actually, I don't think they should sign anybody or draft anybody. I think that they should just let the internal competition win out or whatever. So with all that explanation aside, are you ready, Jeff Simmons, to start our off-season competition?
Let's go.
Okay. And you know what we'll do? It's going to hurt because I'm sure I'm going to lose, but we'll put up a poll toward the end and people can vote for which offseason plan they liked better. All right. So let's start. I have them in a weird order, but let's start with running back. Okay. What we're going to do is you can go first on this one. We'll kind of snake it, Jeff. I'll go first on the next one. You say what you would do to solve for the running back position for the Seahawks this offseason, and then I will share mine. And also talk through your kind of thought process of how you went about it.
So with this one, I really wanted to scour the free agent list because all indications are they're going to sign what's been deemed as a mid-level running back. I've been trying to find a combination of age, skill set, value. Someone's not going to cost too much, but they still have other bodies on the roster. So I kind of went through the list. I was trying to find who the kind of sweet spot is for price and upside, not going to be a declining player. The name I come back to, and it's unfortunate because everyone's kind of come to this conclusion already, is Tyler Algier. I like the price point I think he's going to be at. I think he's a really good hedge for Charbonnet. I think their playing style is very similar. And what I like about Algier is he hasn't had a ton of volume. I still think he is a really solid short yardage back. I think he could do a lot of what Charbonnet did. And you don't know what you're going to get from Charbonnet, if anything, next year. I think he fits really well in their scheme. I think, like, if you listen to, like, the Matt Harmons and some of those fantasy guys, they've made this connection already. So this isn't me coming up with a great idea. I think the price point will be good. I think it'll be within their range. The thing to add to this group, I think they're going to need some speed somewhere because he's not you lose a lot going from Walker to Algier in terms of like home run hitting and explosiveness. And I think that's where I would probably add a second back in the draft.
Okay.
Probably in the mid rounds. I think you're going to have to emphasize speed there. But I don't want them to overdraft a running back. I don't want them to have to go into the draft having to take like a Jadarian Price or a Mike Washington. So I think Algier is a really good hedge, and that was my plan of running back.
Got it. So that's not surprising at all. So the way I ended up going about this, and you can add to this as we go along if you want, but I ended up kind of giving myself 3 moves per spot. Like, and I didn't.
I have like a plan A, a plan B, and
yeah, for me, it was kind of a multi-part plan. Sometimes it'll be plan A. I'll share those. But for me, I'll tell you, Jeff, I was like, I know you don't care about comp picks. I think the Seahawks do this offseason. Algier is going to cost you a comp pick.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. That's like, he's the only running back that moves the needle for me in the free. I'm not at Etienne. Like, I don't think I would pay the money that Etienne's going to cost. I think Algier has the potential to be much better as a featured back than he was in Atlanta. And even if he's just what he was in Atlanta, I think he is a good sign. I don't care if his running style is overlapping Zach Charbonnet. Yes, it would be great to have a home run hitter, but I just think he's the best player you can add to that position, and I think it would be good. So that's the one guy. Then I have a second move that is comp pick friendly, which is Sean Tucker, who was cut by the Bucks. I would go and sign that guy. I don't know what he's going to cost. I think it's probably be like $5 million, roughly around there.
I think that might even be high.
Might even be high. I think that this guy has the potential to be a guy that is a dynamic featured back. And I think I would go and do that. And then what I did for the draft stuff, Jeff, is I have like draft priority 1 through 5, even though you only have 4 picks.
Yeah.
Surprisingly to me, I ended up with the running back position as the 5th priority of 5. I have 5 different draft priorities. I thought it was going to be higher for me. I just don't think that this draft is that great for that position. And it came out to me that there's like the other positions when it came down to it, I think are more important for them to come out of this draft with somebody, because I like Velus Jones. I like George Halani. I like Jacardier Wright. And if they made even just one of these free agent moves, I feel like they don't really have to go into the draft and get a running back.
Yeah, like Algier, like if you sign like Brian Robinson or just Tucker, I think you'd be pretty limited there. I think those guys would be a great secondary signing. But if you sign just those guys, you're going to need to draft someone high.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So that's running back, which is hilarious that you and I both came to the same conclusion, at least mostly on that one. Wide receiver is what I had next. And this one, Jeff, I stared at this over and over again. Like, there are some rumors that the Seahawks are maybe in on Brian Thomas Jr., that he's being made available by Jacksonville, which by the way, to me is a red flag that guy is available. And he was supposedly available even last year. You look like you're about to say something.
Well, like, everyone fell for this tweet yesterday from like a dude that has like 480 followers. It was the most obvious fake tweet I've ever seen. And like Matthew Berry and all these guys, I'm like, how do you not know to check the guy? I was like, I
Yeah.
can't believe how many people fell for this yesterday.
Yeah. I just I went back and forth on this, man. And like I ended up this is oh God. So I said to re-sign Cody White was my number one move. And the reason it was my number one move is I can't get out of my head that the Seahawks have JSN, Cooper Kupp, Torrey Horton as their top three receivers, who were their top three receivers going in last year when they were very productive through the air. I think Torrey Horton's going to be better. I don't want to block Torrey Horton snaps, and I don't think they're going to bench Cooper Kupp. So it was hard for me to make the case. Go out and get this is why Rashid Shaheed was a luxury from my perspective. So Cody White, I think, is a really good receiver, good special teams player. I think they should bring him back. I think they will. Then I have as my second move here after the draft, look into the trade market. After teams have gone through free agency and the draft, they're going to stare at some surplus, see if there's someone that you can snag that maybe fits like the deep ball. And as my third move, I have this as the second highest draft priority. So I do think you need to come out of this draft with a wide receiver. And the reason that's the number two for me, Jeff, is Cooper Kupp's not going to play beyond this year. And I don't think you've got any truly clear, viable candidates. No offense to Ricky White, Tyrone Broden, some of the guys, Montori, Foster. I don't think they have a clear succession plan for that. So I think they need to get someone young in the draft. So those are my three moves.
We're very similar. And so my number one move was really to do nothing in free agency. Historically, when you look at free agent receivers, it's a lot of guys at the top that get way overpaid. I don't think the Seahawks should do that. You're going to see Alec Pierce make crazy money. You're going to see Shaheed make crazy money. I don't think they should be it. And then when you get to the middle group of receivers, historically in free agency, it is a bad place to be. The last couple of years, it's declining players. You got Kupp come through because he got cut. That's a rare situation where you get in there. But you typically see a bunch of players who are either declining or they used to be good, or a Juju Smith-Schuster or Tyquan Thornton. Those guys are not the guys you want to pay in free agency. You want to add other spots. And so being around the combine, the one thing we saw with the Seahawks group is they're missing a guy who can run really fast. JSN is not a pure speedster. Torrey Horton can be. And what happened in the combine? The amount of receivers who are supposed to go day 2, that's round 2 or 3, a lot of them ran really fast. So my plan was draft a receiver on day 2. That could be round 2. That could be round 3. The hit rates in those spots have been really, really good. And I think that becomes a big priority. I think you need speed. I think you need to hedge a little against Kupp and Horton. They both have questions. And I think the hit rate has been, especially with Schneider, day 2 hit rates at receiver have been really good. We went over it the other day. So that was a huge part of my offseason plan. The only free agent name I had on the list was, I said bring back Jake Bobo for the minimum. But I don't know if he'll get the minimum. I'd be very happy with Jake Bobo for the minimum level, similar to what you said with Cody White. I want kind of off the wall idea if this guy's market falls through. And I don't think this is going to happen. I think that'll be too valuable. But Rob Staten asked me to come up with an off the wall idea. It was Mike Evans. If that guy's market falls a bit, that's a player I would dive into. I think he's so good still. I think he had something they don't have. His jump ball. Look, I don't think this is going to happen. I think KC or Buffalo or someone like that will sign. But that would be my pivot move if it somehow happened, like what happened with Averill and Bennett. But for the most part, I want fresh legs at receiver. I want them to get younger. I want them to hedge. And I want them to get faster. I think the draft just suits that position too well. And like you, it's a big priority for me.
Yeah. That tracks. All right. So you are up next. I go to edge as the next position. You get to go first here.
This was by far the biggest challenge I found.
Yeah.
First, I want to secure DeMarcus Lawrence. If that means paying him a couple extra $1 million to bring him back, I'm paying him the extra couple months. With them not getting Crosby and all the questions they have there, number one thing I want to do is ensure DeMarcus Lawrence is back. I think you have to hedge against him, but what he did against the run. So that's number one for me. Then this is a spot I do want to dip into free agency.
Wait, hold on. Ensure he's back. What does that mean? Are you saying give him more money if it requires?
I give him a couple more million to make sure he's back.
Okay.
If that's the holdup, I'm getting him on the phone. I want to know before Monday if I can.
Okay. Keep going.
Don't overpay, but give him a couple more bucks. This is where I actually did factor in comp picks a little bit. And Edge is an interesting group because every time I would come up with a name, I would just convince myself out of it. Either they were going to make too much or the age was bad, or there's some interesting options. The one name I came to, who I think is a really good replacement for Mafe, is Bradley Chubb. They're very similar in size. Bradley Chubb had a depressed season last year. His pressure rates were down. He played a ton of snaps on Miami. They traded Jalen Phillips. He was coming off an ACL. Talking to people and kind of doing some research, they think he's the kind of player with less snaps would be far more productive. And I think you put him with these kind of guys, I think he can provide you very similar to what Mafe gets I think his market's going to be depressed, and he got cut, so it's not going to factor into the comp picks. I don't love the player. I don't love signing descending players, but he was the name I came to that I thought they need a little just more juice on the edge. I know I'd love to get like a run defender and all that stuff. I think they're pretty good in that front with Nwosu and Lawrence and Hall. I think they need someone who's just a pure pass rusher, someone who can just get sacks. And so Chubb was the name I came up with. My kind of plan B, if Chubb fell through, was Von Miller. Again, I don't like signing 35-year-old players. They tried to sign him last year, and Von Miller was on Rich Eisen this week saying he was in there with Schneider, and Schneider was talking about this week that he came into his office like with a notepad, and they thought they were going to sign him. He still had a bunch of sacks last year. So I've been kind of looking for that player because all the other players I came up with were more of the Hall replacements. I'm struggling to find the edge rusher I like in the draft in the early rounds. I don't like any of the options at 32. Maybe I would take one at the end of day 2. It is a priority for me in the draft, but I want to go in having 4 guys into the draft, where if you decide to walk away from Nwosu, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I would sign someone in free agency. And the name I liked was Bradley Chubb.
All right. So this is interesting. So just to make sure clear, you want to make sure that DeMarcus Lawrence comes back, even if you have to pay him a little bit more.
Yeah.
Bradley Chubb, is he a plan B or an and?
He's an and.
An and. Okay. And then the plan B is if you don't get Chubb, then you'd want Von Miller.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I stared at this. I went through a bunch of different iterations. I think everybody's going to want to say trade for Jonathan Grenard. Like, that's what everyone's like, a pivot to Grenard. And I'm like, why? I get it. He's kind of sexy in some way, but just to give you one thing to chew on here. Jonathan Grenard had 47 pressures last year. He had 4 sacks last year. DeMarcus Lawrence had 52 pressures. Uchenna Nwosu had 46, 1 fewer pressures than Jonathan Grenard. Now, different amount of games, different amount of snaps, but I don't know why. I don't see giving up a day 2 pick, a second or a third round pick for a guy that I'm not sure is like 50% better than what you've got. I couldn't get there. I just couldn't get there. I wanted to believe that was the move. I couldn't get there. I wanted to also believe that Rashawn Gary, who said he was going to be released and then supposedly was hacked. We all know that he was not hacked. Anyway, Rashawn Gary is like 280 pounds. I don't think he doesn't draw. He has almost no coverage in his history. I don't think he's necessarily a fit. I think he's still a decent player. If he was in the range, I would have said Rashawn Gary was a guy I would go after. I actually had him written down and I erased it because I don't think he's the right scheme fit.
Me too. That was part of my.
And it's interesting you brought up Von Miller because when I talked to Derek Hall last year, Von Miller's like his favorite player. Like, it would be really interesting to have those guys paired together. I know Derek would be excited, but here's where I ended up with this was my number one priority in the draft. I don't think you're going to get, I think it's a good, solid edge class. I don't think there's a lot of high upside. Like these guys are going to be clear, huge guys. But with where you are with DeMarcus Lawrence and where you are with Uchenna Nwosu, I think you got to get younger and you got to have a plan for next year as well. So I'm not just looking at this offseason. I'm looking at the next 3. I think you got to make this your number one draft priority, even if that means, you're taking it in the first round. Then my second move, which I did not think about till I sat down to do this, and this is where I got, Jeff, I would extend Uchenna Nwosu. I would extend, like, I thought I would come in here and say, cut him, cap casualty. I don't think that's the right move. He's 29. He's basically the same age as Grenard. He had more. He like tied for the team lead in sacks last year. He had 7 sacks. People don't seem to realize that. He had like a bunch of pressures. He's a good run defender. He is a leader. Now he's going to want some of the $7 million that he gave back to the team last year. So this is a little expensive, but I would, if he's willing, I would try to talk to Uchenna Nwosu about an extension to lower his cap number for this year and to keep him around, make it a 2-year extension. So he's here for this year and next year, 3rd year, he walks. So that was where I ended up on edge.
We might be revisiting that in my contract cap section. So,
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, the thing with like the free agents is like a lot of the like younger names I like the Kwity Pays or the AJ Epinezas. I feel they're very redundant with what they have. So that's where I kept writing down a name, crossing it off. Like a lot of people like Arnold Ebiketie because him and Mafe were in the same draft class. I don't know. He doesn't excite me that much. So it's a really hard position because it's not like unless you go out and sign like Odafe Owe or something like that. You're drafting at 32, and the options are not probably 4th edge guys at best. So that's where I'm not looking to subtract Nwosu. I'm with you on that one.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting. Well, one name that we didn't talk about in running back that I want to at least touch on before we continue, Jeff. It did get reported yesterday somewhere that Devin Achane may be available for trade from the Dolphins, that they're looking for a 1st-round pick in return. I'm like, nah, thank you.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't even really a consideration to me. He's an interesting player. I think he'd be a really good addition and be the explosive part, but I'm not giving up. What would you give up for Devin Achane?
4th rounder.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give up a 3rd rounder, I think.
Yeah, I think they don't have a 4th rounder, so I think 3rd is fair. But like the idea of just paying the right to pay a running back, why don't you sign Walker?
Yeah. I don't. It just didn't add up to me. So I just wanted to bring that up because I know we forgot that one. All right. So I believe now I'm first again. Is that right?
Your turn.
All right. Next position. Cornerback. Here was my 2-part plan with a question mark for a 3rd. First thing is re-sign Josh Jobe. And honestly, if that's all you do, I think that that's a viable offseason plan. He was a starting level player last year. You know him, you love him in the locker room. Just bring him back. Make this simple. My secondary move, this is would be a draft priority number 3. I thought this would be higher for me because I really like this cornerback class. But looking at it, I think receiver and edge are a higher priority. But I do think I'd make this draft priority 3. And then my maybe move, depending on how things play out. I still think Marlon Humphrey is a potential cap casualty.
Especially
and
now.
I think that he is a fine, like, if he's your only move, I don't love it. But if he's an with Jobe, then I think you can drop the draft priority for cornerback and let that ride for another year. So I wouldn't hate adding Marlon Humphrey as a 3rd move if that happens.
Well, yeah, I hadn't thought about this, but with Crosby coming in and that salary, I think they're going to have to shed some money just to give him some room to add to that roster. So, yeah, I didn't consider that as much. That's solid. Mine is also a 2-part plan, but I have the draft as priority number 1. this is priority number one for me. Anytime I play with the simulator, maybe because I was just down there the day, I got to talk to all the corners. I'm like you. I like the draft from the strength of the draft. And when you saw Jeremiah talk about this the other day, he said the strength of the draft is the edge, corner, and receiver. Good thing those are our three needs. But whenever I play them, I think the best move for them is to move down from 32 to the early 40s or late 30s, get another day 3 pick, and I think they take a corner there. Because when I play with these simulators, I get cleaned out a lot if I take an edge in the first round or I'm not happy. I think that's my draft priority one, but I think that has to be paired with a veteran. I think to run Mike McDonald's defense, you have to have good corners. We saw what happened in that Tampa game where the secondary didn't play well and it kind of unraveled a lot. So I would like to sign Josh Jobe. I think he's the good sweet spot for price. If not, I came up with some backup names. Like there's a cornerback from Jacksonville who I think will be in Jobe's price name, Monteric Brown. I think that's a kind of a Jobe replacement if Jobe goes wrong. I think we've seen him in that. I think he'd be a really good fit. But plan A is Jobe. And I think that has to be paired with a corner. I would want to take one either at 32 or a move down. I love the range of corners. I think there's a number of different ones. We've talked about that in other shows. I think it fits the strength of the draft. I think it fits the team need. I think it helps you get younger and cheaper when you're about to pay Witherspoon $30 million. I think it's really important to replenish that group. And I think Jobe obviously comes down to price, but draft priority number one to me, get the strength of the draft, add a top end corner, hedge against Jobe a little bit. And I think that's where I would go this offseason.
What was the name of the free agent if not Jobe?
Monteric Brown.
Oh, Monteric Brown.
I think some people call him Buster Brown.
Okay. All right. I got that for you. All right. Now, safety is my next one on this list. And this is you go first, right? I think.
Yeah, this is a hard one because it's a deep draft position.
It is.
Deep free agency. My thing was just hunt for value. If Kobe Bryant follows through free agency and you can get him under $12 million, I'd probably sign him. If there's other safeties, and there's a number of safeties I like. Nick Cross is a safety I like. Alohi Gilman, who's a big PFF guy a couple of years ago, he's played in this defense. I'm going to hunt for value. I think there's a number of players in free agency. If they get to a certain price point, I'm going to want to add them in the draft. If Dylan Thiedemann, for whatever reason, falls to 32, draft that guy. I don't think there's any chance of that anymore. So mine is just hunt for value. If they did nothing, I would be fine with it. I would be totally fine with it. If they go in, they sign a mid-level player or draft a guy in day 3, I would like that too. So it's all about value to me. I think they're really set with Love and Okada, and he's back on the ERFA deal. I don't have a price point I'm like dying to get into, but if they can find value, do it.
Dude, this is the most boring offseason. I cannot believe how boring this offseason is. Well, at least so far. That is not a commentary on what you just said. It's just, my God, like we're sitting here talking about Von Miller and Sean Tucker. Like, oh my God,
Tyler Algier, baby.
I know. That's like the biggest splash move we've mentioned so far.
You guys have gotten there. We saw your reaction to Byron Murphy and Gray Zabel. That was the fun. The Super Bowl, that was the fun. This offseason,
not so much. Not quite. Not yet, at least.
No.
So I cheated a little bit here. Because for safety, I'm in a similar spot as you, Jeff. Where I'll start with where I'm different. I don't really want them going into the free agency pool. I'd be fine if they re-signed Kobe Bryant, but I don't even at the Cam Curl contract. I'd rather them spend the money elsewhere, to be honest. And that's nothing against Kobe Bryant. It's just, I don't think that's the best way to go. So what I cheated on here is my first move was, I told you that cornerback was my draft priority 3. Safety is also my draft priority 3. And what I meant by that is if you get a corner that you love high, take them. If you get a safety you love high, take them. I don't really care which one. I think it's both position groups are strong in this draft. And if they take certain like a certain safety, then really I start to think about like what's like the ultimate goal here is find your best 5 in the secondary. 2 outside corners, your nickel, and your 2 starting safeties. And I can see a future, Jeff, where they draft another safety and maybe they move Nicky Manwari to outside corner. Maybe they draft someone who can play his nickel position, like whatever. Like, I don't know. But I think the ultimate goal here is get the best 5 players. And I don't care whether that's a corner or a safety in the draft. Now, if you draft one of them, then the draft priority of the other one dips quite a bit for me. The second move I've got, and this is just a kick the tires. I'm not, a lot of people are like super excited about this. I'm not super excited, but I would look into Taylor Rapp. Like he's a fine backup safety, good run defender from the area. I think he might be a good fit in Mike McDonald's scheme, and it doesn't count against the comp formula. So like to me that
too.
Yeah. He's 28.
Yeah, like when I first saw him, like Taylor Rapp, like he's so old now, he's declining. And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, that was stupid. He's 28 years old.
Yes. So I that's where I'm at there. No big, like any other thoughts on safety before we keep going?
It's just there's a lot of names out there in free agency. I think if someone's market gets depressed, keep your eye out. But I like you, I don't want to make a big investment. We saw what happened when so much money was going towards Diggs and Adams, and it took away from the trenches. Like you said, if you're it's like spend money on edge or spend money on safety, put that money into the D line.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of which, last position we called out that we were going to do something on is right guard, or at least that we were going to share. So what is this me that goes first on this one? I think it is. So boring. Like my first priority here is like, if they don't do anything, I'm fine with them going with internal competition with Bryce Cabledew and Mason Richmond and Christian Haynes and Anthony Bradford. Like, I think they've got a pile there that they're young and have been with the team. I did make this the 4th draft priority. So I do like some of the interior linemen. If the right guy falls to you, honestly, Jeff, I wouldn't hate it if they picked a right guard at 32. Like if it's someone they really love that they think can be a plus starter, I'm fine with that. But I did have it as a higher draft priority than running back, which I didn't think going into it I would, but I ended up there. And then like I have a kick the tires on a guy that I kind of liked last year that didn't work out for Miami, James Daniels, who was released, and would not count against the comp pick formula. This guy was starter for the Steelers, has dealt with injuries. So there's a chance that you're maybe getting him at a cheap 1-year deal. And maybe he turns out to be, your best option. And he's still young enough that I'm interested. So that was my also not very exciting offseason plan for that position. What did you do?
Well, I saw Brady Henderson. They asked him to make a free agent prediction. He's like, well, they might get a right guard if it's in their price range. And if they won't overpay him, like, oh boy, they're not signing him. But when I went through the free agent list, and this kind of goes against the comp pick thing, my favorite name in the entire class, in terms of guys I like to sign, age, upside, buying at a depressed price, was Elijah Vera Tucker. He was part of the Jets trade haul of picks they got for Jamal Adams. He's really dealt with injuries. He's had torn biceps last year. He's had leg injuries in the past. He is like in the prime age of the perfect buy low candidate. And if his market does get depressed, he would be the number 1 free agent priority for me in the whole market.
What about John Simpson?
John Simpson is more of a left guard that hasn't played right guard as much. I don't mind him either. I think they really missed when they had that whole left guard. I don't know if he flips over, but I like him too. He's played in Baltimore. They know him well. But if you're a Tucker, if they can get him at like the right price, I've seen him as high as like top 15 free agent buys. I think that would be, if he hits, that's a clear. He's been one of the best guards in the league. Played in Mike LaFleur's offense, which is similar to this whole Shanahan thing. I don't think they'll get him ultimately. I think someone will throw more money at him, but I love buying those kinds of players. John Schneider, after what happened with Will Fries and the injuries, he'd probably scoff at this idea. But I would love and if it doesn't work out, then you have Anthony Bradford, who you won the Super Bowl with. That's my rationale. I don't think the Seahawks would come to that same rationale, but if that's the kind of free agent I love taking chances on.
Okay, so is it right to say your plan A would be Elijah Vera Tucker and plan B would be internal competition?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just taking notes here so I can summarize this for folks at the end. All right. Couple more. Contract cap. This is just a kind of catch-all there. What did you have under this bucket?
So I had extend Nuosu, lower than $19 million cap hit.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand the idea of cutting him. You're already kind of dealing at a position of weakness. And I know people see that $19 million number. They have enough cap room where they could even live with that $19 million number. I would try to extend him. Like you said, beyond this year, it's kind of bleak. You got to sign, well, someone we'll talk about in a little bit, but Derek Hall's in the last year of his deal. DeMarcus Lawrence certainly is probably not going to play next year. I want to have some bodies there. I think you need 4 bodies. And Nwosu, I think, can hold up for another year. I think you can still get him at a good number. And I think that will give you the ability to add another player this year. So I would extend him. And then the obvious ones to me are sign JSN and sign Witherspoon. And I had JSN.
Wait, is it in what order?
JSN number 1. I think you want to get that deal done before Puka gets it signed. I have it like a 4-year deal for $160 million, $40 million a year. The sticker shock is going to be hard on a lot of people, but his timing of the market is perfect, and you don't want to keep seeing that number go up and up and up. I think you got to pay him. I think that's one of the reasons you got to let Shaheed go. And then number 2, I think you're going to pay Witherspoon. I think Trent McDuffie's probably going to get paid first, and that probably becomes the basis of the Witherspoon deal. And you're going to see some cornerbacks get a lot of money. But I think what Witherspoon can do in this defense, he still has sending. I want him. I think you need those guys I think those are your 2 core players. And again, everyone calls John cheap. You'll see when these guys get signed, John's not going to be cheap. They're going to make a ton of money. I would love to sign Derek Hall too this offseason, but I think that's a lot of cash to throw up front. So I'm going to say do that next year. Sign those 2 guys, cut Nwosu, move those numbers around.
Okay. Well, I am a little different on this one. So we did extend Nwosu. I had in a different category. It definitely belongs here. I have it in both places kind of, but I have extend Derek Hall as my number 1 priority in the contract cap thing. Nice. If you can get that done, you don't have a 5th-year option on him. This is his last year with the team. I think it's really important that you keep Derek Hall around. I think that should be their top priority personally. I don't know if it's going to be, but and I don't know if his agent will let them do that after a kind of down statistical year, but I would do that. Then I would extend Devin Witherspoon. I would not extend JSN. I would use the 5th-year option on JSN. And here was my thinking there, Jeff. It's going to cost you. I had a similar deal around 41 million APY. I think it increased the cap by his cap hit by about 14.
Cap hit is so low. It's 4 million this year.
Yeah. I think it increased the cap hit by 14.5 million or something. So my thought there is use the 5th-year option on him. You're going to sign him. I'm not worried about that. Yeah. And I don't know that there's another wide receiver that's going to challenge for the top contract and push that value that much higher between now and the end of the season. Do what you did with Charles Cross, and you can potentially sign him later and then keep that cap to be used elsewhere.
And I think that was your logic last year when we're like, you got to sign Cross now. You got to sign Cross now. Everything I've heard is they're going to try to get JSN done sooner than later, but I think a pretty compelling point there. I think Puka is really the only one that's going to raise the market. They're probably in the same ballpark anyway.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It saves cash too.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. And then last move here, bonus move. Did you have any bonus moves? I wasn't sure I had one, but I ended up coming up with one that's kind of weak, but I threw it in there anyway. Did you have a bonus move?
Yeah, I did. I've wanted to sign this player for 10 years now, and he's freaking 40 years old. So I think they still sniffed around. I would, if you could, I want Calais Campbell on the Seahawks for 1 year.
I love it.
He's still good somehow. He's defined 1 year.
He's so good.
But every time I watch this guy play, like you can put him at big end. Imagine him with Leo and Murphy, and I don't know how. Like even in Arizona last year, the guy is still disruptive and good, and
Yeah.
cost super. John's been around this guy for years, so it's the bonus move. It's like it's pure luxury, but can we just get 1 year with Calais Campbell? And you saw him joking around with Gray Zabel. Like let's let that bromance form.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yes. I love that. I think that's hilarious. We should also mention, like, people were like, what about Khalil Mack? We talked about edge. We didn't mention Khalil Mack. Like, he's against the comp pick formula. He's going to still be expensive this year. I personally like, I like these other moves out better.
Yeah.
So
the problem I thought about him a lot because he's played in Jesse Minter's defense and he's a great run player and he's a power player. The problem is he's a 35-year-old player. He's probably going to sign a 1-year deal. It's probably not the best way to like manage cap and manage cash. You're going to have to take all that hit in 1 year. I think it's just a tough guy to fit in, and I think there's still going to be a big market for him. I couldn't make the numbers work.
Yeah. Yep. So my bonus move, not nearly as fun as that one. I just am a little bit focused on the fact that the Seahawks have a huge pile at inside linebacker now. And I think Tyrese Knight is clearly a starting caliber player who's not going to be a starter. And I think Patrick O'Connell's starting caliber and is stuck behind him. And so I would trade Tyrese Knight. If you can get like a 4th round pick for Tyrese Knight, I would try to flip some of that depth to get something back that you could use this year. Maybe that would be like, I think a 4th round pick this year could net you that running back or a receiver or a corner that you like. And it would just be kind of a way to shuffle your value from one position group to another. Not the sexy.
No, it's not Calais Campbell fun, but it's like when I was trying to think of like, okay, who could the Raiders want if we're going to get Crosby? And it was like, they like Christian Haynes, probably not. Maybe Tyrese Knight, but I don't know. It's someone would want him. Someone's going to want a Mike McDonald linebacker at some point. But
yeah,
the other one I thought about was Mike Evans here. It's just he wants to play for a contender. They just come off the suit. I love him. I was at that Falcons-Bucks game last year that they ended up blowing, and Mike Evans was just posterizing them. I've always kind of loved him, but that's probably just not going to happen. I don't want to. I'll stick with Mike Calais Campbell.
Okay, so let's go over the offseason plans. First, Jeff. Well, so I think the best way is probably to do them by person. So Jeff for running back, we go after Tyler. We'll go after Algier, and then draft a back in the mid rounds. For wide receiver, he would use a day 2 pick. He would try to bring back Jake Bobo and maybe kick the tires on Mike Evans if somehow his price gets really low. And no bonus points just because you put in big names. Like
no. We gotta be realistic.
Don't get bonus points. For edge, you would make sure that DeMarcus Lawrence comes back, even if it means paying him a few $million more. You would go after Bradley Chubb, who is a non-comp pick affected player because he was released, right? And then if not Chubb, then Von Miller, right?
Yeah.
And then cornerback, make this your number 1 draft priority. You really like the corners in the draft. You'd bring back Job. And then if not Job, then you'd look at someone like Monteric Brown. Yeah. For safety, you just hunt for value. Basically, you're open to Kobe Bryant coming back if he gets under a certain amount, under 12 million. You like Nick Cross and Aloha Gilman at certain price points, but you're also fine if they did nothing at the safety spot. Yeah. At right guard, you'd try to get Elijah Vera Tucker if the price was right, recognizing you think that's probably not realistic. And so your primary then would become just internal competition. Then for contract cap, you would extend Uchenna Nwosu, you'd sign JSN, you'd sign Devin Witherspoon, and for your bonus move, you'd go after Calais Campbell. So I'm going to read mine next.
So old. Oh my God.
I'll read mine next, and then I'll kind of highlight where there's differences because there's a lot of similarities. Running back for me, Tyler Algier, Sean Tucker would be my priorities, and then this would be, 5th highest draft priority if you happen to get into a point where you get 5 picks. or other things get addressed elsewhere. Wide receiver, I would make this my second highest draft priority. Okay with a day 1 or a day 2 pick on this position. I'd bring back Cody White. And I'd look at the post-draft trade market to see if there's, after everyone's got their free agents and their draft picks, whether or not there's someone that you can pry away that fits a need. Edge, I would make this my number 1 draft priority. So obviously day 1 or day 2 pick. I would also extend Uchenna Nwosu. And going unsaid there, but just to add, you then are counting on internal Connor O'Toole, Jared Ivey to potentially also step up in that scenario. Cornerback, I would make re-signing Josh Jobe my top priority. I would make this a third highest draft priority. And if he becomes available as a cap casualty, I would kick the tires on Marlon Humphrey. For safety, I cheated. I said that this was like essentially cornerback and safety were the same draft priority. And if you get one, then it really knocks the other one down the list, because I think you're looking for your best 5 players in the secondary, not just at corner or safety. And then I would, as just a exploration, look at Taylor Rapp and see as a backup safety if he makes sense. Right guard, I primarily focus on internal competition, Bryce Cable too, Mason Richmond, those guys with Anthony Bradford, Christian Haynes. This would be my 4th highest draft priority. I would kick the tires on James Daniels, who would not count against comp pick. Contract cap, I would focus on extending Derek Hall, extending Devin Witherspoon, and then use the 5th-year option on JSN. Do not extend him right now. And then my bonus move is trade Tyrese Knight for a pick or a player. I think you could potentially get a 4th-round pick, but that might be wrong. I don't know. So as I look at this, Jeff, the big differences for us, I had the Seahawks maybe going after a couple of running backs with Sean Tucker on that list. You just went to the draft in the mid rounds. As far as, wide receiver, it's not a huge difference. No. Edge, not really.
You want to go high in the draft. So you're making the group a lot younger.
I am I wanted that to be the highest priority draft spot. You are more about.
I'm looking getting older.
Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. Yeah. Or Von Miller. Yeah. That's fair. That's it. That's a good
That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. Yes. Thank you.
See, we disagree finally. All of you can be quiet.
Cornerback. You have this as the one that you want to get a young player. You really like the draft class. For me, this is lower priority. And then safety, I guess there's a little bit of a difference in that I think it's a similar priority in draft. You don't have it as much as any draft priority. Right guard, you've got a free agent. I don't really, other than I guess a street free agent, James Daniels. And then the JSN, I've got him not extending him, using a 5th-year option. You've got him. I think those are probably the biggest differences. Anything else stand out to you?
Your plan seems to get them a little younger, which is probably where John Schneider wants to be. My plan is kind of focused on a 1-year window, it seems like. So it's older, it's financially savvy, but you're probably going to end up in the same scenario next year with more holes, with more guys coming off. So I think those are the big areas of difference.
Yeah, I launched the poll. This is funny to watch. I fully expect Jeff to win because Jeff's beloved regardless. And Jeff is smart and has spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, but I heard John Schneider on the 710 the other day was like, we're looking 3 years out. All of our plans are, I'm like, he would be like furious at this plan.
I don't know. It is right now. You're in the lead, Jeff, as you should be. And we'll see where this ends up in a few seconds. A couple quick things. I'll just say, people are like, who's the next Sam Darnold? Who's the next DeMarcus Lawrence? Like, those don't grow on trees, man. Like, you need a lot of things to be true to find the next DeMarcus Lawrence. And I don't know that you can just count on that happening again, where you get a Pro Bowl level player that's a massive difference maker at a premium position for a low price.
The Seahawks have had 2 great free agency periods since Schneider's been here, 2013 and 2025. So that basically happens once every 12 years or 13 years. I think that's a pretty good ratio. I think most years are going to end up like this, where You're either going to want guys like this or be disappointed. Those are few and far between. We've seen it twice in 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do. I'm not surprised that like you throw Calais Campbell on there. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I kind of cheat.
Yeah, you kind of. I have to admit, you
like,
got me there.
I feel like every Seahawks fan in like the back of their mind, it's like, man, can't we just get 1 year of this dude? And he's freaking 40 now. Like,
yeah, I can't
at some
see
point he
him
has to fall off a cliff. And they're actually they also have 3 defensive tackles.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love. I think it would be fun. Don't know if I see it happening, but
come on, John, make it happen, man.
It's so funny, dude. Like this week, everyone's like, "Oh, you just keep talking about Crosby. It's like a clickbait thing." I'm like, "Look at my offseason plan, man. It's so boring."
You see why? You see why we're
boring.
It's like there's so many trades this week. It's like, can we have one? But like the Seahawks don't have a big pool to trade from. They're down to 4 picks.
They had the best team in football last year. They don't need to like get significantly better. They need to,
hold the fort,
supplant, augment certain places. We got a couple super chats. Maddox says has been a member for 12 months, 1 year. Love this show. Can't wait for next season with a new owner, players, and OC. Let's go back to back. That would be fun. And thanks for being a member for a year. Jason Sass says, what are your thoughts on Joey Bosa and our Khalil Mack? We talked about Khalil Mack. I think Joey Bosa, like, I'm not spending money on that guy.
He's a diminished, beaten down. Like, he's got a beaten down body. It's not.
And it counts against comp pick formula, and I just don't think that's a player you do it for.
No, it's. I think he's going to end up in San Francisco most likely.
That makes sense to me. It has to happen at some point. Casey Reynolds says Hawks have 5 comp pick generating free agents. They can only get 4 picks in a year, so they can sign 1 free agent without losing a pick. I don't think that's really how it works exactly. Like it's there's going to be some canceling out of certain things, and it depends on what level of player. They're not all equal. It's about the price that they spend and the price that they give up. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to totally just do it based on comp picks, but yeah, yeah. Anything you'd add there, Jeff?
No, it's like the comp pick formula definitely confuses me. The guys at Over the Cap, I think his name is Nick Corte, does an almost perfect job of tracking it as it goes. So follow that guy. He has the projections as close as it's pretty incredible how close their projections are. Like they're usually like 1 off a year. And so people thought like you'll get 5-4 third-round comp picks. I think you need to make over $20 million APY, I think, to get the third-round comp pick in this market. So I don't think there's a lot of Seahawks who are going to hit that threshold.
Yeah. Casey's back, says if the Hawks lose Kobe Bryant, what about McDonald's BLT safeties, Geno Stone, Chuck Clark as depth? Baltimore safeties. Probably costs less than $3 million, so won't cost a comp pick.
We didn't see a lot of love the last time those guys, when Geno Stone was on the market.
He was also pretty pricey.
Price. Yeah, but I feel like McDonald kind of made those guys. I feel like he'd rather just find the next version of that.
I'll tell you a name that I almost put down, but decided not to. Is D'Anthony Bell. I would just go sign that guy to be like he was already on your team. He's a good special teams guy. Does
he get a Super Bowl ring?
I don't know how that works. Like if you're on the team at all.
If I was him, he got claimed like week 16.
Oh yeah.
I felt bad for him.
Kendrick.
Well, no, he kind of worked his way out of here. I hope he doesn't get a ring.
He got a few picks, man.
He did. He helped them early in the year, but he actually, if you go watch Shaheed's return against the Rams and watch him, maybe he was like a spy, double agent, because he was doing nothing on that play for the Rams. They benched him.
Exactly. All right, so we've got about 70 votes, and Jeff, you look like you're going to win this 54 to 46%. Congratulations. You've been crowned the off-season champion. Well done. That's got to be one of the most dry, boring off-season. Like, dude, it was hard though. It was hard.
It was because last year and just like the end of the Russ years and kind of where they were at defensive end and where they were on the D line, we were spent free agency with me and you and Evan and Nathan, and we have these like huge free agent lists because they had this like huge holes and it always felt so stressed. They don't really have that now. Like this is the first year. It's like I'm also going to be refreshing my phone like crazy because I'm a lunatic and love this stuff too much. But like, it's not like last year where I was dying every time a guard signed or every time a move. A couple years ago, it was the edge rushers or D tackles, and they end up with Jaron Reed, and we were also disappointed. They don't really have that, which is kind of nice. I'm just going to kind of be sitting back, seeing what happens. Probably be a quiet first 2 days, but man, the end of those years where they signed Benson Mayo, and they had that one year where they just burned all the cap room on Gerald Everett and Greg Olson and guys like that. They're not really in that spot. It's kind of a weird spot to be in. Where last year it felt so stressful. All the things, receiver, we're all like waiting to see what's going to happen there. They have holes at running back for sure, but it's not like that.
Yeah, I think that the Seahawks are a contender with no moves.
That's the thing.
I do. I believe they are a contender with no moves. I think that they're going to get better at a lot of places they were already good from just player development. I like a lot of the young players that didn't get snaps last year that will get snaps this year. Like, for all we know, Connor O'Toole or Jared Ivey could be really big. We've already talked about Riley Mills. Like, I've been down on Nehemiah Pritchett. He did make a great play last year. Maybe he's ready to ascend. I don't know. Like,
they can go out and play at most positions except running back.
Yes. And even at running back, like, I like George Halani a lot. Like you
don't want him as your RB1 on a Super Bowl team, but you can play with him starting a game.
Of course. I think you definitely can. And I do like Velus Jones.
Last year, they couldn't play the left guard.
No.
Other years, they couldn't play at the edge position, D tackle.
Yes.
Like a couple of years ago, they turned over their entire defensive line, and they had a blank slate. Kind of the Browns' whole O-line is in free agency this week. I've never seen that before. Every one of their starters.
That's amazing. Well, think about wide receiver last year. You trade DK Metcalf. All you really have is JSN.
And
you didn't have Cooper Kupp yet. You didn't have Torrey Horton yet. Like, you definitely didn't have Rashid Shaheed yet. Like, you basically had JSN and nobody. Like, no offense, Jake Bobo or Derek Young or, Cody White. But as far as proven contributors and starters, you didn't have anyone else. So it is very, very different this offseason. I think people are going to probably be a little bit bummed watching it happen.
People are going to be annoyed seeing all these guys go out the door, but a lot of them are like the secondary depth.
I think the Nwosu thing, of all the things we did, that was the biggest surprise to me. It's interesting we both got there. When I looked at his age, I looked at his production, I looked at his fit, and I looked at the other options. Like, is it really worth giving up a draft pick and a bunch of additional cap to go sign somebody else? Like,
I think you're really playing with fire if you do that.
I couldn't get there.
Yeah. You need 4 bodies.
Was there anything else that, for you, just looking back, last comments here, that surprised you that you ended up not being able to do that you thought you'd want to do, or that, you ended up doing that you didn't expect you'd do?
My edge group, my edge moves surprised me. Because I went in and I'm like, there's that like middle tier of guys that are like 26 years old, 27. Maybe they'll take a chance on an AJ Epinesa or an ascending player. And when I heard you make the draft pick, it's like they really need to get younger there too. And then I ended up with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, who were like old Denver Broncos combo. But that surprised me that I went old at that spot because they're already old at that spot. I thought I'd come to a conclusion where I'd get one of these young guys. But when I start factoring in all these other things, I kind of like that when I went through the list. But if you asked me yesterday, I would have figured like one of those mid-tier ascending guys, an Arnold Ebiketie maybe. I would have figured I'd go there.
Yep. It was an interesting exercise, to say the least. For folks that don't know, I will be going live Monday as the tampering period starts, and we'll start getting real news. I don't know how long I'll be live for, but I'll be live most of the morning, kind of tracking all the things that are going on. So we'll hang out together. We'll have a good time. Maybe Jeff will join for some of it if he can sneak out of work. If not, he won't, and we'll talk to him later. And for folks that haven't already, now is a great time to buy my book. hawkblogger.com/book. We'll get you a copy of it. Love it. Look at you, dude.
Okay, I need the listeners' help though, and maybe one of your sponsors. So I definitely bought some Super Bowl merch when they won the game. And I'm in this group with Evan from our fantasy football pool. And one of the guys sent a picture of like this Emerald City shirt And I'm like, I need to buy that. That hoodie is so nice. And I go on, and a lot of the Seahawks Super Bowl merch is sold out or out of stock. Does Simply Seattle like restock that? Like, can someone help me? Like, do they re-add Super Bowl, or it's like if you don't get in the first month, are you out of luck?
I don't know for sure. You can get the best answer I can give you is for Simply Seattle. Go to simplyseattle.com. They update the website regularly. You make sure you use code HawkBlogger15, get you 15% off. And then the other place you can go is hawkblogger.com/hawksgear.
Okay.
Let me make sure I still have that.
There's this like really nice cream sweatshirt. I'm like, I want that. And it's gone everywhere. And even like the official team, like the hat that they wore on the podium is gone.
Yes.
Seattle did have it. So am I screwed for some of that stuff?
I really wanted the opening night, the opening night sweatsuits that they had, the gray ones. Those were so nice, and they're gone. And from what I understand, they're not going to restock them. Which
I hear they moved to the draft. I was like, I hope someone on here. I don't know if like people on eBay sell this stuff, but I was hoping Simply Seattle would have some cool stuff. I got stuff, but not. I started seeing all the stuff that I wanted, and I started having regrets last night. I got sad.
Yeah, I hear you, dude. Well. Take a look at Simply Seattle. It's a good place to go.
Hopefully they ship to Toronto.
And you can go to hawkblogger.com/hawks, HAWKS, plural, Hawks gear. Hawkblogger.com/Hawks gear will also get you Seahawks gear. Dude, that was fun. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your weekend. I will probably be back with you on Monday. Maybe something will happen where I'll be back with you tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your day.